Here we go. It's a bloody business overthrowing a king. But amid the chaos, a whispered rumour is spreading. A rumour of a broken promise, omens of death, and the gods returning to walk the earth. Surely, nobody really believes those old legends. Perhaps they should. Hello everyone, my name is Reese and welcome to my channel. It is time for my first ever book review, and today I am reviewing Promise of Blood, which is the first book in the Powder Mage Trilogy by Brian McClellan. Now this was a wild ride. I loved it. It's not actually the first time I have read this. This is my first ever reread of this, but it was very, very fun. Whilst I didn't necessarily enjoy it as much as the first time I read it, I still had a great time, and I blasted through this in maybe 4 or 5 days, and it's a 600 page, well, nearly 600 page book. So that's pretty good. For those of you that don't know, this is a flintlock fantasy. It takes place in a land called Adro. I think there's 9 different realms or kingdoms, but Adro is the main focus, and it is set sort of on the cusp of a change of technology. So gunpowder is now a thing. Guns are coming in, so it's not your classic sword and sorcery type fantasy. It has got this new element, and I think that's what a lot of these books and this series sort of looks into. It is that emerging technology. Something that's really cool about it is the magic system. You've got this sort of tiered magic system of a couple of different types of magic being used. The old magic of the privileged, of the sort of classic sorcerer. That's quite a sort of soft magic. We don't really get an inkling, certainly not in this book, of how it works. You've also got, on the lower end of that scale, you've got what are called knacked, which are like people who've got like a gift. So there's someone who's got like a perfect memory, another person who doesn't need sleep, but it's just one little thing that they can do and either do really, really well or something like that. And then finally, you've got, again, this new emerging magic system of the powder mages, people who can control or have control over the gunpowder, which obviously until now has never been discovered. And it's sort of the clash of these two systems and worlds coming together and finding their place in this world. It's a brilliant book, very fast paced. You start, almost feels like you're in the third act of another book. You start with a coup. That's not spoilers, that's literally where you start. And it's crazy. There's death going on. There's a massive wipeout of the nobility, and it's how the country sort of gathers on from there, and from the sort of civil war that sort of comes because of that. It's very, very fun, very, very fast paced. Honestly, it felt like it was more than one book all crammed into one, with the amount of things that happen. It is really, really interesting and really kept me going, really kept me engaged, which was brilliant. I enjoyed the characters. I think I'm going to warm into them more. I'm looking forward to reading the next book, just because not all of them sat with me fantastically. Not that they were bad, I didn't feel like I got to know them that well. There are 4 points of view that you go through in this book. You've got Tomas, who is sort of the main character. He's the field marshal controlling all the armies. You've got Daniel, his son, who's just come back from a deployment elsewhere. You've got Adamat, who is actually probably my favourite point of view. He's a knacked, but he's basically a normal person, and he hasn't really got powers that he can use in this world. And he's the one who's at the centre of the biggest mystery of this broken promise that's happening in the story. And it's his job to find out what this mystery is, and he has to do it basically as a normal person. He doesn't have the powder mage powers, he doesn't have privileged powers, he just has to go through the world and make do. The 4th and final point of view that we have is a mysterious character called Neela. I say she's mysterious, she's the only female character point of view that we get, and we don't really get much from her. She's kind of the other side of it. She's kind of just a normal person, just running around. She doesn't really have much agency. She doesn't really get to do much. she's kind of reactive in a lot of sense. I think if I remember correctly, she comes into play more in the other books. I don't really remember those, so I don't know. But yeah, she's kind of there in these books, and it's okay. Tomas, I hadn't warmed to him that much in this one. He's kind of this general, and he's got a lot going for him, and he's an interesting character, but I haven't connected with him. Taniel as well, he's obviously dealing with this sort of themes of addiction and things that are certainly prevalent in him. Again, he's an interesting character. He's actually got one of the most interesting characters alongside of him. He has Capole, I think her name is, or he calls her Pole for short. She's the most interesting character in the whole book, and we know very little about her, but she's very mysterious, and I really want to find out more about her. So I like Taniel's point of view because you get to know a little bit about Capole every time she's there, and she just pops in and out, but I want to know more about her. And then, yeah, Adamat is definitely my favourite character. Another side character I really like, Olem, which is Tomas's bodyguard. Very funny character. He's just a smart ass, and he's quite nice too. He's just brings a bit of brevity and a bit of levity to it, so I quite like him. The story's a little bit odd in the sense of he doesn't really have a baddie. It kind of sets up a guy as a baddie, but and there's another character who's a baddie. I'm not going to say it for spoilers, but yeah, I sometimes find I'm not kind of sure who the baddie is. Oh, then they're not. I had some issues a little bit with that this time. Not in a bad way. I still enjoyed it, but I was just a bit like, okay, what's happening here? I'm not sure in terms of the villain, but I don't mind stories not having a villain either. Sometimes there doesn't need to be a big bad going and laughing maniacally. Sometimes it's fine, but I kind of felt like there was at times that there was kind of meant to be, but then there kind of wasn't at times. But it's still enjoyable. As a whole, the world building is really good. You get a sense that there's quite a big scope to this land. We don't necessarily get to see all of it, but there's obviously quite a vast history behind it, even into more recent history, because sometimes you get either really, really ancient stuff going on, but nothing in between, or you get really, really recent, but nothing ancient. We've kind of got a bit of both. I think we're still going to delve more into that. We don't get to know a lot of it, but you can tell there's some there. It's just going to be interesting as I read more books to find out what more there is in that world building side. The one thing I do miss a little bit in terms of that is the connection between the world and the magic. The Nact seemed like such an interesting magic system with each individual, or not necessarily everyone, but individual people sometimes having these different abilities, but we don't really see them integrated into the world that much. Again, might come up later in the book, but yeah, I just didn't get that, so it'd be nice to see a little bit more of that. But again, I'm being really nitpicky at this point. It's a great book, and I really, really enjoyed it. As I say, I flew through it, and I'm already flying through the second book, so very much enjoying it. So overall, really enjoyable read. I'm looking forward to reading more. In fact, I'm already reading more, and I'm flying through that as well, so the second one will be coming soon. Hopefully we get to delve more into the backstories of certain people, Capole especially. I really want to find out more about her, but I hope I'll warm to some of the other characters more, hopefully more to Tomas and to Taniel. At the moment, I'm not really connecting them with as much. They're interesting, just not connecting as characters, but a really, really fun read, and I would highly recommend if you're wanting a sort of 18th century French revolutionary muskets and guns and gunpowder. Really, really fun. I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. I think when I originally read it, I actually gave it a full 5 because it has got some great action and great plot going through it. But this time, I'm going to go for a really solid 4. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed and follow along for more reviews. See ya.